We started the second booklet, Torah Sources. I gave this out last week. This booklet, first booklet we did on the Shabbos sources for the Torah sources for Shabbos. Then we're now, since many of the halachos, generally on Shabbos especially, there are many guardrails from the Rabbanon, and we're going to see what the Torah tells the Rabbanon to do and what authority he gives them. So last week we learned, the first page was that originally Hashem, God, was going to give the 613 commandments in installments. He started off with the 10, and after the first 10, the Jewish people came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, this is too intense for us. We're not going to be able to continue living as a human being. You'll be the one who is going to receive the Torah, and you will relate it to us. Hashem accepts it, tells Moshe Rabbeinu to stay, and then Moshe Rabbeinu goes up for the first time for 40 days, 40 nights, and there Hashem gives him the Torah and also the 10 Commandments, the actual block of the actual commandments, the on some material that Hashem created, and then so that is how we now have Moshe Rabbeinu being the one who's going to give over the Torah and teach it to them, and they're going to receive it through him. Now also, that was Moshe Rabbeinu in his time, and let's turn to page 2. Hashem says also that in the future generations, Hashem your God will establish a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers, and you must listen to him. So Hashem now introduces Nevi'im, prophets. This is the second booklet. Second booklet. Does everyone have it?
This one? Yes.
This a lot of pamphlets I see. Every class gives you some.
Back to school.
Okay. Okay, do you have it? That's okay. So page 2. So Hashem says, I'm going to now introduce prophets. And how will you know? To him you must listen, because you asked Hashem to give you a human being that will give you all the information that Hashem has. So Hashem says, I will put my words in his mouth. He will tell them everything that I command him. And if anybody does not listen to my words, he speaks to my name, I will punish him with death from heaven. Next page, page 3. If you say to yourself, how will we know that the declaration is not said by God? The answer is, if a prophet claims to speak in the name of God, the thing does not occur, and you see that it will never come about, that's a declaration that God did not say. The prophet has spoken to deceive you intentionally, do not be afraid of him. So now we have that, how is a prophet established? So either one who is a prophet also declares the next person as a prophet, like we have Moshe Rabbeinu declaring Yeshua as the following prophet, and then you have the test that the prophet is given, that he makes a declaration that will happen, and it must happen exactly as he says, without anything. Again, now the Rambam Maimonides gives us identification, how to identify someone to begin with who is worthy of being a prophet. You can't have someone from the street coming and saying, I'm a prophet, even if he makes predictions and they come true. It has to be a person who is established to begin with, known to follow Torah and mitzvahs, known to be very scrupulous, known to be a stellar reputation and character. He's supposed to be one who represents Hashem. The best that a human being could do to show what a human being should be. So that is the requirement to begin with. And then in addition to that, he also is the one who's going to give you information. So what was the prophet? The prophet was one who, whenever there was a situation for national need, the prophet would say what is the direction they should take. A prophet is also for personal information, physical things. The Tanakh tells us about Shaul. His father lost his donkeys. He didn't know where to find them. So he goes to Shmuel, who was a known prophet, and he asks him, could you tell me where my father's donkeys are? And he tells them. So here we have a prophet is giving you just information, or to tell you when the person will recover, where he should go, what kind of sustenance he should have. So by the Rabbeim, there's a letter of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe asks his Chassidim not to ask him any personal, physical questions about their livelihood or anything about their health or anything of that sort. He says that is reserved for prophets. But my task is to guide you spiritually. You want to know how to come closer to Hashem? That's what that's why I'm available to you. However, Chassidim did not listen to his request not to ask personal things. They did ask personal things, and the Rebbe answered. The Alter Rebbe, even though he writes that that's only left for prophets, but when they asked him, so he answered. The Rebbe was asked, our Rebbe was asked, how could he, tell people life situations? How does he take that responsibility? He said, if a person is in a position to help someone, how could he refuse? So how the Rebbe's, how it was with the Rebbe, that's but generally this was something that, in fact, the Rambam says that prophecy, there was a time that after the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash, after the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash until the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash, there was no longer prophecy. There was Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. Many of our leaders were divinely inspired, not in the level of prophecy that Hashem communicated with them. That was a different story. But there were some in the times of after Rashi that were called a Navi. Obviously, there was something that people recognized, that they had a direct communication where Hashem was giving them information that to the average person did not get. So now, let's turn to page 4. What about a false prophet? Hashem says, if a prophet arises among you, a person has a vision or in his dream, and he indicates to you a sign in the heavens or a miracle on earth, and the sign of the miracle which he told you happens. Okay? So now we have someone who makes miracles, predicts the future. And what's his conclusion? Let's go after other gods which are unacquainted to you, and let's worship them. So his conclusion is, let's make a new religion, let's change the religion. That is what this prophet is saying. You should not listen to the words of that prophet or to that person who has a vision in his dream. So Hashem says, if he tells you to disobey the Torah, then you know I'm not the one who sent it, because the Torah is something that is eternal, forever. A God who is eternal, who saw all the generations to come, our generation as well. If he gave us the Torah, that meant it was to be done, followed for all generations. So therefore, if he comes to a conclusion that he's making a new religion, even though he makes miracles, let's say he could walk on water, or let's say he could heal lepers, he could do a lot of good things. But if he makes a new religion and takes anything away from our religion, where he says there's no kashrus, is no longer, the Shabbos is a new form of doing it, or anything else that is done, Hashem predicts that this will happen. Now, what do we say? Do not listen to the words of this prophet or to this person who has a vision or dream, and God is testing you to know whether you in fact love God, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul. So it's a test. So we have other religions sprang up throughout history, and Hashem gave them the ability that they should succeed. Whether it is Christianity, or whether it is the Muslims, but you should know Hashem is testing you to see are you going to follow or not. You should follow only God your God and fear him. You should keep his commandments that were given through Moshe, listen to his voice through the genuine prophets, worship him in the holy temple, and adhere to his ways of kindness. So Hashem gives us all the future, tells us what we should expect. And the Rambam addresses this and says, why did this happen for other religions? He says it is in order to bring closer the time of Mashiach, that we'll not have to start from the beginning, because everyone is going to be aware of God and the Torah. So the Bible is one of the most printed books ever, whether it's and this is something that all the nations of the world are aware of a Bible, of the Torah, and then their interpretation varies according to their interpretations. Then we have, as Hashem gave it through Moshe Rabbeinu, the interpretation, whether it is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. So it's not meant, it says, the Torah says, if someone hurts someone, you should take vengeance, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Does it mean you have to take out the person took out someone's eye, you have to take out his eye? Is that what the Torah wants? No. Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, it means compensation. You deserve to have that done to you. If that's what you did to someone else, you deserve to have it done to you, but it's not that you have to give him compensation, you have to give him money. Whatever cost it is, whatever happened to that person because of this damage, you have to pay, make the compensation. But without Moshe Rabbeinu, then we just read what the Torah says, and you do not know that interpretation, unless you know what Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu how to interpret it. So when it comes to keeping Shabbos, many other religions have a Sabbath, but how do they keep it? They keep it the way they keep it. We keep it the way with Lamed Tes Malachos, the 39 categories of activities that cannot be done on Shabbos, with the positive activities that should be done on Shabbos. This is all Halacha Moshe Sinai or through the prophets. Now we have, at this point, we have Moshe Rabbeinu, page 5. Page 5. We have until now, Moshe Rabbeinu is the leader, and only leader, and any information that anyone needs has to come to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu taught the public. Whatever he received, a message from Hashem, a mitzvah of Hashem, he assembled everyone and he taught them. There's a whole order of how he taught it. He first taught it to Aaron, then his sons came in and he repeated again to Aaron's sons. Then the elders came in and repeated again to the elders. I guess each one was able to ask their questions to understand it well. And then everyone else assembled, and Moshe Rabbeinu taught it to the public. Then Moshe Rabbeinu left, and Aaron taught it again, understanding how the people understand, what they need more. Then after Aaron taught it, he left, and the sons taught it again. The sons left, the elders taught it again. And then the people studied it. Now we have that there is now going to be Moshe Rabbeinu is asked to provide meat for the Jewish people, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, look underline on page 5, where God said to Moses, to Moshe, at your complaint you cannot bear the people alone. Assemble for me 70 men of the elders of Israel, the ones that were known, the people's elders and officers back in Egypt. They're the ones who were responsible for the Jewish people to produce the proper amount of work. Everyone had a quota, how much they had to fill. If they didn't fill the quota, then the leaders were responsible to make sure it happened. And if it didn't happen, then the leaders were beaten for not getting on the backs of the workers. So these were the elders that took the beatings instead of them forcing the Jewish people to work harder when they were working according to their full capacity. So they took the blame and they took the beatings. So Hashem says these people who were so responsible for the Jewish people, they had a heart, and they felt that they were ones who were together with the Jewish people. They're going to be the ones who are going to be the elders. They're going to be the leaders in the desert. And Persuade them to come to the tent of meeting and have them stand with you. I will come and speak to you, and I will magnify the spirit upon which is upon you, and place some of it on them without reducing what you have, and they will bear the burden of the people with you, so you won't have to bear it alone. So here we have now the first Sanhedrin, which is the first Supreme Court. So there were 70 members, and Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of the Sanhedrin. So now we have the idea of a court system. We also have the court system earlier that when Yisro came, after the giving of the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who's teaching everyone, and Yisro says, this is too much for you to handle. Why don't you delegate your responsibilities? So they had someone who was in charge of 1,000, one over 1,000, one over 100, one over 50, one over 10. So every 10 people had their mentor, and then above them was someone who was in charge for 50 groups, of 50 people, 5 groups. Above them was someone who was responsible for 100 people, 10 groups. Someone who was responsible for 1,000 people, for 100 groups. So you had that idea of people who are responsible. Then you have the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court. Now we go to the authority of the Supreme Court. Now in the, once they come to Eretz Yisrael, every city that had more than 230 people had a court of 23. And so this was for every city. And then you had, there were the 12 tribes. So then there was a court that was the tribe court. In other words, they were the highest court for that tribe, according to their abilities. That's how they were chosen. Then you had the court in Jerusalem, which was a higher court, again, according to their abilities. Then you came to Har HaBayis, Temple Mount. That was a higher court. Then there was a court that wasn't as a Nashim, in the women's section. As soon as you came in, there was a court, also of 23. And there was also 69 people, 3 rows of 23 that were also listening to the judgment, but the 23 the ones who voted. The others were able to discuss. Then you came to the Supreme Court of 71 members that had a door open to the inner court of the Beis HaMikdash, which means they're getting their divine inspiration from the Beis HaMikdash itself. So they have the 71 members, and then there are 3 rows of 23 each, 69 members, each one according to their ability. That's how they were seated. The greater you were, the closer you were to the Sanhedrin itself had that. If there was a vacancy, the first one of the 69 then took that, was the last of the Sanhedrin. Everyone moved up 1 seat. Then they took someone from the court that was in the ladies section, the women's section. He became now part of the 69, and everyone moved up 1. They got someone from Jerusalem filled in until we got everyone filled in and back again. So now the Torah tells us, if there will be a question, a distinction between pure blood, impure, verdict of innocent, guilt, pure lesion, impure lesion, and there's a conflict, and the sages in your city could not come to any conclusion. Sentence 2, you should make the journey to the high temple, to the place that God your God will choose. This is, I guess, 9. You should come to the priests who are from the tribe of Levi and to the judges who existed at that time. You shall question, and they will tell you the word of the judgment. Number 10. This is the Hashem's conclusion. You must obey the words that they will tell you from the place that God will choose. Since this is a Supreme Court, Hashem will make sure that the conclusions will be correct. What is halacha? Halacha means to go on the way, the path that Hashem wants you to go. And the conclusion is, what is Hashem's will? So what does Hashem want the person to do? What does Hashem want the community to do? Whatever the question is, that is the question that you're addressing. What does Hashem want? And since the Supreme Court is in the Beis HaMikdash, whatever Hashem wants, He will give them the vision that they should come to the right conclusion. It was done by votes, and according to the majority, that is the conclusion. Everyone gave their reasons behind it. All the 69 members were also able to participate in the discussion, but the vote itself was done by the 71 members, and they came to a conclusion. You should carefully obey everything they instruct you. You should act in accordance with the teaching they instruct you, in accordance with the judgments that they issue to you. So now you have that they can also make ordinances, they can also make safeguards. Hashem gave them this act in accordance with the teachings that they instruct you. So it's not only the verdict, but also how to conduct oneself and make all the different safeguards as well. You must not divert from the words they tell you, even if they tell you right is left and left is right according to your understanding. But if any man intentionally disobeys and fails to listen to the priest who is standing or officiating before God, your God, or the judge, that man must die. Thus you will eliminate this evil from Israel. And so if you have a person of stature, and he hears the verdict of the Sanhedrin, he's a person that everyone looks up to as an authority. And while he's there, he says that the Sanhedrin is not listening to the Sanhedrin, then he gets the capital punishment. That's how severe it is. So, how does it apply? So this is what the Torah tells us about the court system, about Nevi'im. How does it apply to us? So now we have many. When people would write to the Rebbe would answer. They should consult with a Rav Moira Oiloam, a rabbi who is actually practicing in that field, that he answers halachic questions. So you have the term rabbi is someone who has smicha, someone who has ordination. It would be similar to someone who graduates from medical school. So what does he get? Gets a certificate. He's a doctor. Now we can put doctor in front of his name and a couple of letters after, depending on where he is. However, is he fit to actually see patients and able to diagnose them? As soon as he gets a certificate, as soon as he graduates from medical school, is he ready to go now to practice? He has to now go to before residency. What is there? He has what does he have to do? There's a residency, and there's the first year, and there's the 3 years, whatever it is. He has to actually have someone who's supervising him and seeing how he diagnoses and everything else to help him, because he's just learning the text, and he really does not have the practical practice. Same is also with a rabbi. Rabbi can have smicha, and the Rebbe urged that everyone before they get married should become ordained as a rabbi, but that does not mean he's a Meirah Haylah. It does not mean that he could render halachic decisions. What he has to do is he has to be an apprentice with a practicing rabbi, sit there, and the rabbi will field him questions and see how he answers it and where he gets his sources and everything else. The rabbi will be with him to take until the rabbi feels that this person is competent. Then he will tell him, now you are competent, and now you could answer halachic questions. So when the Rebbe would send someone to ask a rabbi, would be someone who is in that field, who actually has the ability to be able to answer questions, because he has already also been ordained and had his ordinance from those who were guiding him. In our community, we have a bezdin, and if you have questions, they will answer you, whether it's on the phone or you text them, email, whatever it may be. I'll put the number on the board. So if you do have a question, I think it is, you just start off with small questions to get to feel comfortable to pick up the phone and ask a halachic question when it does come up, because not only will you always have rabbis available to you, but this is something that you should have a contact with a rabbi who is going to understand you as well. Now, in Shulchan Aruch, in the Code of Jewish Law, we do have the question of something permissible or forbidden. So there is, at times, it says it is permissible. However, one should be strict. However, if it's a time of duress or special circumstances, one could be lenient in such a situation. But generally, one should be strict about it. So there you have the Shulchan Aruch itself gives you guidelines, that you judge according to the situation. And then the rest would be that if you're cooking for Shabbos and the question comes up and you will not have anything to eat for Shabbos, and halachically it is permissible, but they tell you that you should be strict about it. So in this case, they will say we will rely on the lenient because in order to be able to have a Shabbos. So you see that the Shulchan Aruch itself is not black and white. It also gives you times that you should be more strict or not. The Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch that was written universally was not written a Shulchan Aruch for Lubavitch. The Rebbe of Shneur Zalman, he wrote a Shulchan Aruch that his Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrish, told him that he should write a Shulchan Aruch that is going to incorporate the reasons behind the halachas, and it should be something that's universal. For the Hasidim, he had a separate, guidelines for them. For instance, in Shulchan Aruch, he says you're allowed to crack nuts on Shabbos and eat but you have to be careful not to take away the shells because that's selecting, Torah prohibition. So you're allowed to do that. I said the Alter Rebbe says you are allowed, in Shulchan Aruch he writes, as the halacha is, that you're allowed to crack nuts on Shabbos and eat them. And his guideline for Hasidim, he says, do not crack nuts on Shabbos. You want to eat nuts, take them out of their shell before Shabbos, because the likelihood of picking up a shell without thinking, which is a Torah prohibition, is something that's quite common. Don't put yourself in that position. So we see, Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to. So he writes a Shulchan Aruch, yes, but at the same time he also wrote for his Chassidim how to be more careful about certain things. I'm just giving you an example of this. Now, the fact that there is a practicing rabbi, Hashem gives him the insight that he should come to the right conclusion. He may not always know how he got to that conclusion, but the bottom line will be that he gives the right conclusion. Story is told with the Shagas Aryeh. He was Rabbi, what's his name? Rabbi Huda. He lived in the 1700s, and he was 70 years old, and he was asked to fill a certain position. And in order to test him, the community came up with this fabricated case, very, very elaborate. You really had to be a genius to be able to solve this case. And they presented him. This was a monetary case. Two litigants were there, and they heard all the sides and everything else, and they came up with this thing. And then he gave the verdict. And then they said, no, but in this book, it says differently. It says that this is a fabrication. The story is not true. You fabricated it. He said, you're right. How did you know? He said, because I'm a rabbi, and I know I have siyata d'shmaya. Hashem helps me to come to the right conclusion. And if I'm not actually dealing with an actual halachic question, then I don't have this special divine help because I'm an average person. A person could make mistakes. However, if this is my question, that's an actual halachic question, I know I never made a mistake in an actual halachic decision. I can make a mistake in understanding something, but not in the conclusion, because I do have siyata d'shmaya, have Hashem's help. This is also, it was a very complicated question in Lubavitch, where the third Lubavitcher Rebbe was told the verdict that the Rav of Lubavitch gave, and he said, to come to such a conclusion, you have to be a genius. He's not a genius in any way. But he is the rabbi of the city, and therefore Hashem helped him that he came to the right conclusion, even though he has no clue how he came there. So this is something, that's why he said there's a certain siyata d'shmaya, there's a certain help that Hashem helps. And we can see by that, we see hashgacha pratis, everyone in their own lives. Are you familiar with the term hashgacha pratis? Divine providence. Things happen that you see are normal, but Hashem's guiding. And like the story is told, you're looking, you have a very, very important appointment, you're driving the car, the place is always, there's no parking in that place, you have to go around 30 times, and you have to be there at a certain time, you're very, very worried about it, you say, okay, if I make it on time, and if I get to this parking place, I'll give it tzedakah. Then the person comes to the place, in front of the place, and as he's coming there, a car pulls out, and now he has a parking place. So he says, okay, Hashem, you don't have to take care of me, I've been taken care of already. He doesn't realize that was the hashgacha pratis, that the car pulled out exactly as he is pulling in. So the hashgacha pratis happens, do we see it or not? If we're looking for it, we'll see it. Some people are looking for a page, and they open up, and this is the exact page they're looking for. Did it ever happen to you? Here we go. So this is something that's remarkable that I feel very, very blessed when that happens to me. Someone asks me a question, and I know which sefer it's in, I just don't know which page it's on. And there it is. That's a real hashgacha pratis. Someone who has that is really very fortunate to sort that. So this is one example where you sort of aware. You could say, well, just by chance, But if you say it's Hashem's guiding hand, that makes it feel like very special. So this is also when it comes to Rabbanim, one should have a rabbi, a practicing rabbi, that they will ask their questions, not only someone who has smicha, but actually someone who is practicing. So some people feel it in different ways. It's called Siyata Dishmaya, heavenly help. I don't share this. Maybe I shouldn't. But my position is I am in the Lubavitcher Yeshiva on Eastern Parkway, the building that has many, many steps going up. That's a branch of the Lubavitcher Yeshiva that is for post-high school. So my position is that I answer questions. And the Rebbe gave me brachas that were extraordinary. And when I'm there, any question that is asked, I'm able to answer. Able to find the source, also not only answer, but also to find the source, which could be in any place. And this is not, not only the topics that we are learning, but any question that is asked. So that is the bracha of the Rebbe. That's the Yata Dishmaya. I know it's not my abilities. I mean, if someone would ask me anywhere else, I wouldn't be able to answer. It's only when I'm in yeshiva, asked by the students. So I feel the same way when you're speaking about someone who's able to answer questions in halacha and able to get to the right conclusion without any hesitancy. That is a gift of Hashem, and Hashem does give the gift because He wants everyone to do to follow His way. So now the next topic that I want to make briefly. I think you're going to have a separate class for this, but I just want to briefly. How do we get to Shulchan Aruch? How do we get to? Okay, so in page 1, I guess we should. Okay. In page 1, we have the written Torah, the 24 Kisei Kodesh, the holy writings. On the left side, we have the 5 books of Moshe. Then we have the 8 books of prophets, 11 books of Ksuvim, the writings, and the 5 Megillas. That is all the written Torah, written through prophecy. This is the direction of Hashem. Every word has its meaning, many, many multiple meanings, many, many refarshim. They're all true, with the refarshim that are given from those who are of authority. So those are the written Torah. Then we have the oral Torah, which is which Moshe Rabbeinu gave over orally. Then together with that, we also have the Zohar, which is the Kabbalah. So at the same time that Moshe Rabbeinu received the literal translation and halakhic translation, he also received the Kabbalistic esoteric meanings to the Torah. So the Torah itself has Pshat, Remez, Rush, and Soid. Every part of Torah has these literal translation, Remez, what it alludes to, Pshat, Remez, and then we have the Hamitic teaching, the moral teachings. Then we have Soid, which is the secrets, the esoteric, Kabbalistic part of Torah. So then we have the Zohar by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and also we have the Midrashim. So where do we have all the information about Avraham Avinu growing up? His father was a maker of idols. Where we have, it doesn't say that in the Torah. Where we have all the different information about everybody, that we have the stories of the Torah. Where is that from? So those are Midrashim, is also given through Moshe Rabbeinu. So until the oral Torah, until the until we come to the Mishnah compiled by Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi 3978 or 218 in the Common Era, until then there was no written text. Everything was oral. So you had to have a tremendous memory that was like extraordinary to remember everything. You had to really be a blend that we would call a genius. In our generation, so we have the ones before World War II. These were outstanding Talmidei Chachamim, outstanding Torah scholars, that to them memory was something common. Our teacher in 770 knew all of Shas, all of Talmud by heart, all of Shulchan Aruch by heart, all of the commentaries on Shulchan Aruch by heart. He was like a walking dictionary. So we were amazed. He said, my yeshiva, that was common. Before you could, the entry, you had to know 300 folios of Talmud by heart. You were not accepted in our yeshiva unless you were of that caliber. The yeshivas were very, very exclusive. Common person did not go to yeshiva. It was only people who had that capacity did go to yeshiva, and they developed their minds in such a way that's extraordinary. So now it's not the usual. We're trying to get back to it again, but for a time this was. But we see that there is that ability that people have, that we look at it and say, "Wow, how could anyone do that?" So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi until 218, it was all by heart. And the Sanhedrin, they kept a library of all the earlier halachic renditions and all the different opinions and everything else. But it was a library for the Sanhedrin library. But the common person had to know everything by heart. So then Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, 218, saw that the people are no longer going to have that ability because they were under the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire made many a time a verdict that Torah study was forbidden, punishable by death. Also, the Roman Empire was spreading, and the Jewish people were also spreading to different places of the world together as a part of the Roman Empire. And they came to Germany with the Roman Empire. They came to Gaul, France, with the Roman Empire. So they traveled along, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi saw that they're not going to always go with their teachers. So they have to have a text that they should know the fundamental teachings. And that is what the Mishnah is. Have you heard about the Mishnah before? Mishnah means teaching. It is a works that is of halachic conclusions, and they do bring different opinions about it as well. And it's very, very brief. It was meant that you should be able to study it well, be familiar with all the information, and you had to have that would give you the background, but you had to develop all the details yourself, or you had to have that from a teacher. But at least you had the foundation. So this is it comes with 6 sections. Zoyim, number 1 is laws pertaining to fields, plants, and food, our brachas, our davening, Noshim, men and women relationships, marriage, the responsibility of the husband, wife, the divorce, all the different things that have to do relationships with men and women. Zikin, there's the monetary issues. Then number 4 are the holidays, going through how each holiday is celebrated, all the details, kachim, sacrifices, taharas, purity and impurity. That these are the 6 sections, and we have a works that's called Mishnah. Then those who first got the Mishnah, they were very familiar with it. They were able to